Hey guys, what's going on? Brother John here. Um, no, right now we have no viewers, but yeah, we had this planned for earlier, and yeah, I was just not feeling good, and needed some rest. So, and luckily got this going now because of we had some tech issues. As you know, I have to use my original account for Hangouts, and that could kind of be weird because of the whole shit that happened with Google a couple years back, and the emails and all that. So I don't even have an outside chat to add people on this original channel. So yeah, so I sent out some invites. I hope some people come in. Hope to get it in time. This could be a very short hangout. It could be an extensive hangout. Um, so I'm just going to go briefly over some of the issues I have with the crucifixion. Um, I might mention some Bible verses. Don't have them specifically, but I don't think it really is necessary. Tell you the truth, unless someone wants to bring them up. Unless you're dealing with some kind of prophecies and stuff like that, and that seems to be a whole nother issue. Um, but we could do that. See if anybody comes in. Um, okay, one of the reasons. Okay, so you had the Romans crucifying criminals for all sorts of crimes, especially crimes against the state, uh, rebels, murderers. You know, and you had other people walking around saying they're Messiah, right? Or want to take down the king. These people were, yeah, they were crucified. Um, Now, one, crucifixion. Uh, Now, depending on which gospel you read, because you have one gospel where Jesus died in a matter of a few hours, maybe 3, 4 hours, I think. There's another scripture. It can be interpreted like 6 hours. So this is definitely under 12 hours, okay? That apparently, according to the Gospels, the crucifixion happened. This was rarely the case when Romans were crucifying criminals. I mean, they kept them up there for literally days, uh, till the ravens came and ate them up. It was a sign, it was a deterrent. It was a deterrent to others, show others this is what's going to happen if you fuck with the Roman Empire. So it was a statement being made. It would keep them up there for days, and it would usually take like 1 to 3 days before they even die, and then they might even be left up there another day or two, and it would stink. It would rot. So this was, yeah, a deterrent for those who were thinking about um, yeah, rebelling against the Roman Empire. So that's one of the issues I have with the crucifixion story, is that because now this goes into another thing. According to the Gospels, Joseph of Arimathea requested for the body of Jesus. Apparently, he was some rich dude in town and wanted to put Jesus in the tomb. Okay, this is another thing that would rarely happen. All right, and if there was a request for the body, it had to be definitely a special request sent to, the governor or Caesar. It had to be a special request, and usually it was by the family members could only make that request. All right, so this is another thing that I believe is very unlikely that they would permit Joseph Arimathea to take the body, and only after hours of being on the cross. Another thing is that, and this is in a story, right, where they were going to break his legs. They usually broke the legs of the criminals because then their whole body would drop, causing them to suffocate. They usually had like a kind of a stool on the bottom of their feet where they can kind of hold themselves up, right? Um, but yeah, a lot of most of the cause of death is not only from the wounds and maybe loss of blood, but asphyxiation. So they break the legs to make sure that the person was dead. Now, if I'm a Roman soldier and I'm not doing my job, yeah, you can be in a shitload of trouble. So for them to not break the legs of Jesus and only after a few hours, yeah, that kind of makes it a little bit unbelievable. Apparently, yeah, they stuck him to on the spear on the side of him as well to make sure he's dead. But did they go up, check his breath? Was he just unconscious? These are things that they've had experience with criminals that was happening. Um, quickly go back as far as carrying the cross. I know we get a lot of depictions of Jesus carrying the whole cross, right? This was probably not the case. He was probably only carrying the top part of his cross. There's no reason for Roman soldiers to keep making new crosses when they can only have the one post in the ground all the time, and they just have the top part either be that could probably be reused or another one. So it made no sense to have a whole cross made every time when they could just again stick the base, the vertical piece, in the ground and be done with it. Um, when you start getting into resurrection, just like some of the reasons I already offered earlier, it can very well be if I'm going to take the story at whatever face value, all right, because I want to get more into the resurrection either on probably on tomorrow or Sunday, being it's Easter. But what I laid out with you as far as the number of limited hours he was on a cross, how he checked he could die, if a person came and if they take his body, as the story goes, he could have easily been resuscitated. So my belief, if I'm going to take the story to be any truth, because there were people named Jesus, there were people who were messiahs, there were people who made names of themselves, there were people who were rebels, there were people who were seen to be bucking against the system, right? So it wasn't an uncommon thing that these things could have, happened. That a man named Jesus did get crucified for these things. I'm agnostic when it comes to the historical Jesus. I definitely don't believe there was, of course, resurrection story or miracle claims, because extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and the evidence kind of laid out to you points of that. Yeah, he probably didn't die so soon, but resuscitated. And last but not least, I'll say this. And this I know many Christians don't like, but well, it's a couple of things actually I have to say. Was the story actually a sacrifice? Did Jesus actually make a sacrifice? When I think of a sacrifice is something that is lost for good. I don't see a sacrifice happening. Jesus was going to put him, give himself to die, apparently for the sins of the world. That's another thing I'll get right to. And is going to live anyway. He's right. According to the story, he's supposed to be gone. If he stays alive, there's no sacrifice. There's no loss on his father's part. There's no sacrifice. There's no sacrifice like when someone in the Old Testament sacrificed part of their livelihood, an animal. It's gone forever. That's the sacrifice. It's a loss, right? It's a payment. All right. You might have caused loss to somebody. So now loss has to be taken from you. I don't see the sacrifice in the crucifixion. And ultimately, the idea that a person should pay for the sins of another, or that this is a requirement, I hate to say, is more evil than anything else. I think it was in Deuteronomy. There's scripture about how you could find probably contradictory scriptures, but there is a scripture in there talks about how one cannot pay for the sins of another. Father cannot pay for the sins of the son, and vice versa, all the generations. Um, this idea of someone going to pay a price for someone else's, you know, crimes, and to force that, to do that, to be their plan, I think is really ultimate evil. It takes away from what I believe a lot of the themes in the Bible is personal responsibility. Taking account for your own actions, being remorseful, right? You do wrong to somebody, you're gonna pay. You pay your dues to society, you pay your dues to that other person, right? And that is how forgiveness and reconciliation, redemption is given among humans, right? We have a justice system. So again, this idea of someone paying the price for someone else's crimes, I think is ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. So I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. I did send out invites. I was hoping maybe a couple of Christian friends I had want to come in, and I don't know if they wanted to say something. I did send out invites. Whoops. Um, hey Stan, he stands on the outside. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Stan was the issues with the other channel, so I have to use the original channel, and there's no outside chat, and I'm limited with apps and stuff. So doing what I can. I will have the other hangs up probably in a couple months, or unless I can figure out how to get this original channel going. So because I'd rather switch things over here. This my original channel got more subscribers. So whatever. So yeah, I went over. So yeah. So again, the hours of crucifixion, how they determine the death, the carrying of the cross. He couldn't, the sacrifice. I went over all these already just now. So I'll wait a couple minutes. I'm gonna get a drink. My throat is hurting. I think I'm coming down with something because I was resting a lot earlier. So I will be back in a couple minutes and see if anyone else comes in. Let me see. I'll shoot out an invite. Let me see. I can do it through the other old hang. I can do it this way. Let me see. Okay, that's done. Yeah. All right. So maybe we can get a little debate going. See what happens. I will be back in a few. All right, I'm back. Yeah, it doesn't look like, I don't know if they're getting invitations or not. If you're just joining us, thanks for dropping by. Yeah, I already went over my issues with the crucifixion. The other thing I think about is, in the Old Testament and for thousands of years, and the scripture says, man looks on the outside, God looks on the heart, right? If someone is truly repentive, couldn't God just see that? Wouldn't he just see the heart of man and can determine if someone really felt like they were sorry for the things they did? Um, and Christianity gets this beef. It's like Jesus is the free pass, right? You've heard it all before, where you can have some mass murderer in his last moments of breath. I accept Jesus, forgive me, and according to the scriptures, boom, he goes to heaven. Then you have somebody who is of no belief of Christianity. Maybe he believes in another God. Maybe he's an atheist, right? And he's done, good, beneficial things, right? Didn't kill anybody. Because if we take the basic Ten Commandments, you could keep them, you know. Um, so no need for death, no need for sacrifice. This idea of blood spilling and blood burning and burning of animals. I mean, come on, really? This God gets off on this. Also, the other thing I think about, and we humans, we just love to think we're the center of the universe, right? We are the center. The Earth is it. This is it, the only world. So, but now we know a little bit different that there's a mighty universe out there. And even Christians will admit that the probability of life being on another planet, okay, on another that can sustain life like ours, is quite possible. Just given the numbers, the probability is there. It can be quite a few of them. So my question then becomes, if that is the case, and it's probably the case, did God have to send his son to die over and over again for the sins of these other worlds? Did this story isn't every other world too? That's pretty sadistic, right? You send your son through that over and over. All right, Jesus, we're done with Earth. All right, let's go. Let's go move on to Planet X and and Y and Z. Let me check out the outside chat, see if there's any questions, comments. Let me see. Okay, troubleshooter. If you believe and understand what our sin is, you would realize our sin murdered Christ. So all are murderers. But the thing is, it wasn't your sin. You didn't even exist then, troubleshooter. Right? Why should someone blame for things they didn't even do? It's not even reasonable. It's not even justice. So, yeah, I'll have to disagree with you there. Obviously. Well, define sin. See, you're going to troubleshooters asking me, have I sinned? Okay. For some, that's a broad, that covers a broad spectrum, or even to the point of thoughts in my head. Do you really think you have control over all the thoughts in your head? and you are going to be held accountable for those thoughts. When you deal with scriptures, like says that even if you look at a woman lustfully, you're an adulterer. You know, and so now you're doing the whole. Have you ever told a lie? You know, you're doing the whole Ray Comfort kind of deal. Then you're a liar. If you ever stole, you're a thief. And does one action define you? Does one bad action define you? You know. So if I steal, yeah, you will be in court. You'll be right. You go to court. You pay for the sin, either in restitution, or you, depending on how big the crime is, you go to jail. And you pay for your own sin. Are you saying then that people should get off? You know. I was hoping my buddy. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm coming down with something. I can feel my throat. So my buddy William come in. I know he wanted to come in earlier. And I'll wait. I started 6:30, so I'll wait another 2 minutes. See if anyone else comes in. Hello, 6 viewers. Welcome. For those who just came here, I pretty much went over all my issues of having with the crucifixion. So I guess you could go back. If we don't get anybody in here to discuss it further, could go back to the beginning and hang. And I'm sure it's a lot of things that no one's ever hasn't heard before. The arguments. If not, I hope I especially for Christian, I give something to think about. I was a Christian for 30 plus years. And people started asking very valid questions. I had very valid points that I looked into over a period of time. And so I left Christianity about 9 years ago. And now to know that that there is nobody reading all the thoughts inside of my head, it's kind of liberating. And we have Simos.
Hello.
Oh. He's come to see me.
Oh, I may have an echo. No, I don't. I'm okay.
Okay.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah. Is it a fiction? That's the question. Yeah. What do we mean by fiction? I mean, maybe the crucifixion isn't a fiction, but obviously I believe the resurrection is a fiction because that can't happen. That don't happen.
Right.
But no, I assume that people were crucified.
Yeah.
I mean,
quite often.
It's not the worst. It's not the worst torture I've ever heard of. I'll be honest.
I was making the point before, because according to the gospel stories, Jesus was taken down in a matter of hours, right? And from my understanding of what Roman crucifixion went about, they kept these criminals up there for days till the freaking birds ate them up as a deterrent to everyone else.
Yeah.
Scare tactic.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a bit of a cop-out that if you're going to die for humanity, that your crucifixion lasts like a third the less that most people's do, or other criminals get crucified for a week at a time, and you go in a few hours or a couple of days, right? So that does seem a little strange. I would have thought that if you're paying the biggest, if you're trying to find retribution for the biggest crime of the universe. You know, that you'd only have some kind of mild form of torture, like crucifixion, right?
Yeah.
You know, because that's nothing compared to the Middle Ages. I can assure you that torture got considerably more gruesome. So if he was going to pay for history, the biggest crime in history, maybe he should have waited another 1,000 years or so to get really fucked up. I'm just saying, it's a possibility. Or maybe the sin, the crime, wasn't that big after all, and it only needed, like, you know, 14 hours of crucifixion.
Yeah.
You know, and then it always confused me. You know, if the Romans thought he was guilty, right, which presumably they did because they sentenced him, torture him first. I mean, that's just killing him before he goes on the cross. Right? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, apparently, according to the stories, right, he was whipped and had a crown of thorns put on his head. There was a certain level of torture.
Yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me. You know,
the other thing I brought up was that you know, again, the Romans they don't bring down these bodies from the cross, never mind ours. And it would have to be a special case, a plea from a family member. I'm sure they had to have some kind of in to have the bodies, so then they can bury them, you know, according to their custom. Here you got.
I thought they weren't allowed to be buried.
Joseph,
to be honest. I thought they weren't allowed to be buried.
Yeah, that could be that too. So that's why it was like a special case, right?
Well, because
and then you have treason. This guy Joseph Arimathea. He's not a family member, just some wealthy guy, apparently, according to the story. Yeah. Requested the body of Jesus.
Yeah. Alone. You know, why would the Romans be so particular about having their, you know, discipline and laws abided to, and then make a load of exceptions after they'd kind of started the prosecution, right? I mean, they took him down early. You know, they didn't make sure, you know. They let the body go, right? I mean, this is just not normal Roman practice. It certainly isn't the reputation that the Romans have got in Britain. I mean, they were never that generous.
Excuse me.
So it does seem strange to me that the whole story seems contrived in terms of the history of the area. There seems to be archaeological evidence, for instance, that some of that area was in fact quite wealthy, and that in fact is the reason why the Romans wanted to hold on to the land. It was nothing to do with all these damn that the Roman Empire can't deal with. Right? That's nonsense. The only tribe they haven't been able to deal with, of course, was the German tribe. Eventually defeated them, but that was another 400 years away, isn't it? No, more than that, 800. Yeah. So again, it just doesn't make historical sense from a Roman perspective. I mean, there's a couple of other things as well, like you know, Constantine was the famous emperor that was allegedly converted to Christianity before a battle,
right?
Or because of a battle. He said, if I win this battle, I will convert to Christianity. Right. And yet the victory arch for that battle has been found. Okay, and it mentions Constantine, of course, but nothing to do with Christianity.
Huh.
So you would think that if that story was actually true and not a fabrication from some time later, the Romans would have at least made mention of the fact there'd been battle to this god. And you got to remember, the Romans did believe in gods, So
Yeah, they were pagans, right?
they would
Constantine was a
have, yeah, they would have no problem, constructing some kind of reverency towards a god. No problem at all. And yeah, I believe Constantine, the rumor is that he converted on his deathbed. So again, another deathbed conversion story. And we know what atheists think of those.
No, apparently he had a vision, right? A vision of a cross, that he was going to have victory in this war, right? Also,
something like that. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But it was still known, like you said, it's still known even after the fact. He was still worshiping pagan gods or going to the pagan temples.
Yeah. So again, it seems contrived, which is the general point about Christianity. I mean, and I would say badly contrived. You know, when I was younger, one of the things that I thought was quite interesting about the Jesus myth is that there are discrepancies, and you wouldn't write discrepancies in if you were just making up a story. It didn't make sense, and that was something which confused me. But of course, because it was written over a long period of time, that would easily explain it. The fact that they didn't have access to some of the doctrines that other people were writing about and making up. And that's enough to explain discrepancies. Plus word of mouth, you know, it wasn't written down immediately. Jesus didn't write his words down. So how do we know what they were? We don't. Bit of an oversight by the most powerful being in the universe, I would say.
A little bit.
You know, careless to have lost the original documents. Originals were truly inspired by God. Weird that they would disappear.
It's kind of weird that God could raise the dead, perform miracles, but can't preserve any original manuscripts. Kind of weird.
Yeah, a lot of power.
Especially when the eternity hangs in the balance for billions of people.
For the whole of humanity, the whole of His creation. So that kind of seems a bit strange to me as well.
I brought up also.
Sorry, just to finish off there. Like with Moses, right? I mean, this is the thing. You know, Moses goes up the mountain, comes down with however many stone tablets, and then decides to throw them away. Right now, how on anybody's planet, including the devil's, does that make sense? You know, if you've received the first communication from God. Right, and this is not the first. I mean, when I say the first communication, I mean a hard copy. Mm-hmm. Got the first hard copy. Well, do you know what? Those guys over there, they really pissed me off when I came back because they were just too loud last night. They were having a party, fucking sleep. So I'm going to break the fucking tablets. Mm-hmm. You know. Anyway, there's my rant.
And also, I mean, they went 40 years with Moses, right? Kept the faith for 40 years. They couldn't keep it for 40 more days.
It was a good fucking party, though, to be fair, brother John.
Yeah, the other thing I mentioned was, okay, so now, I mean, people back then, right, only known their own known world. Now we have the probability of many worlds where life can exist. Does Jesus have to die over and over again?
Yeah, no, that's interesting because I was listening to a debate between, can't remember someone and someone else. They were saying the Nicene Creed says that Jesus is the only incarnation of God. So that would seem to imply that God's only interested in this planet. Mm-hmm. Of course, you know, how flexible is the word of God, right? I mean, you know, we can easily see that someone could say, well, Jesus could just, you know, simultaneously appear to everybody. Or I think William Lane Craig said, or perhaps they don't need saving because they never took from the apple, right? Never ate the apple. So, you know, ways around that kind of thing. But it's interesting, you know, to think that if there is life out there, intelligent life out there, then the consequences of God you being the sole God of the universe. He has to, I guess, take his omnipresence more seriously.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't been around here for quite a long time. That's what I'm saying. So I don't know. The contradictions are quite fun to point out, but I don't think they're, you know, I don't think you have to go too far, shall we say, to find these contradictions. And then once you've found them, and you're already down then the path of trying to explain them away, or explain why an apparent contradiction isn't. Of course, you're just adding in then suppositions, which you have no. And so the whole thing, the whole edifice becomes much more entangled. It's a sign that it's man-made straight away. But no, I don't think the crucifixion was a fiction. I mean, I think, as I say, there was crucifixion. I just don't think there's anything holy about torturing someone to death. Disgusting prospect, actually, to worship that kind of, I don't know, sadomasochism, whatever.
To allow someone to take responsibility for your actions, I mean, I think that's pretty evil.
The way you put it there may not be so evil, but not to have to take responsibilities for my own actions. I think that's evil. That's why I think that the idea of a personal God is just ridiculous. I mean, it's completely contradictory to me. It basically means that you know, I can live in a cocoon of ignorance and never have to face the retribution of my own conscience.
Right.
And I just think that's, you know, denying a part of my humanity, which is important to me. Hey, welcome, Lyrics.
What's up, Lyrics? And as I mentioned before, I mean, for thousands of years, the system was either, okay, they sacrificed an animal or they repaid another person. They took responsibility for their own actions.
Mm-hmm.
Why did God have to kill his only son? If he says it says he looks upon the heart, right? So I mean, if someone's repentant, I'm surely this God can tell if he's sincere.
Well, knows. I mean, the God knew beforehand, obviously, whether the person was sincere or not sincere. Mm-hmm. And trying to put up some kind of, like, oh, this is the biggest sin, so it needs some kind of huge demonstration from God. That's just nonsense. I mean, that's straight on the face of it. You know, you're claiming that someone eating a piece of fruit and trying to better themselves. Okay, that's the first thing. Well, yeah, okay, if you think it's a sin, all right, but it's not a big sin, is it? Surely not. Trying to better yourself? Just on the face of it, there seems to be some kind of dichotomy there. And then saying that you have to, you know, the only thing is child sacrifice. It couldn't be more contrived, especially when you recognize the context that it comes from. I mean, people did do child sacrifices, but, you know, that's long into history. Right? And that certainly, maybe, you know, individual tribes, maybe the Philistines did or didn't. I don't think there's enough evidence to show that that's necessarily the case. You know, we don't even know whether they used iron or how much iron they used. And you're telling me because you found, you know, one child's body buried under a post hole, that means it was a ritual thing for the entire community. That seems to be what I'm being told, and to do that, we're demonizing the Philistines. But we know from history, used to do things which we now no longer do. Right? We don't sacrifice animals that way anymore, the way the Hebrews used to do, or the Canaanites used to do. So if they're saying that sacrificing animals is moral, right, then I don't know.
There are some cultures, right? Some like voodoo cultures or stuff like that. They still.
Yeah, well, even going back further, and again, and when we say child sacrifice, right? Well, you know, I disagree. I mean, how do you prove that they are sacrificing children, right? How do we know that, you know, the children didn't die and then they sacrificed the dead body of the child to their particular religion? We don't know that. Children were actually killed in the purpose of sacrifice.
Right. So, that was the other point I brought up earlier about sacrifice. I mean, sacrifice usually denotes some kind of loss. In the Old Testament, you lost something.
Yeah.
Now here is Jesus coming back. Where's the loss? There's no sacrifice. I know that bothers a lot of Christians. When I say that to some people, they get really freaking crazy. What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, technically, I mean, for sure, there's no loss, but God could make up a loss if He wanted. You know, so that's fair enough. Again, I just don't think it's sacrifice because, you know, it's like when they say, well, we sacrifice animals. Not really. It's just a posh way of saying we get them ready for the dinner table. Right? I'm not sure that's, yeah. Okay, so you kill something in a ritual way, that's sacrifice. Okay, well, you know, I don't know. So yeah, I think the term itself seems a little bit strange, and you know, it reminds me of the Phoenicians. I think that used to, you know, they would leave food at the temple, etc., like many of these ancient cultures would, and presumably that was a kind of a distribution system for from the temples and to feed the priests, etc. So that may have been, you know, beneficial. So, but they made their sacrifices through building like clay figures. That was part of their sacrifices every day. So I think that pragmatism and people realizing what we're doing comes into it a little bit as well. And some of the more flowery traditions, like Mithras, and that's the only one I can think of offhand. You know, they're all quite expensive religions because you have to sacrifice a bull or, you know, a quart of wine or something, right? So that's quite expensive to do those kind of sacrifices to worship your gods. So, you know, to me, again, the move of saying, well, Jesus is the sacrifice, that's just a way of saying we're a really cheap religion. You know, come and give us your 10% because we don't make you pay every week, right? When you go to sacrifice, we just make you pay once a year when it comes to the 10%. You know, so I think things like that really, really help attract people. And you know, it was. I mean, certainly when I was a kid, you know, the Christians used to pride themselves on saying, you know, Jesus is the Lord of the poor. Right? I mean, they used to revel in the fact that they would take in the unclean.
Right.
Basically meaning the poor, the unwashed. It seems to me Christianity worked on being a numbers game. And again, Catholic doctrine supports that, right? I mean, Jesus, in the Catholic doctrine, Jesus is the Lord of non-contraception. So I think they recognize that it's a numbers game. Not wishing to be too cynical about the early church, but you know, they were pretty quick. They didn't hide much, right? I mean, they actually wrote most of their, you know, prejudices down. They were quite happy to do that, which you've got to give them respect. And likewise, you know, a lot of the more sophisticated atheist arguments actually come from theologians at the time trying to disprove their position. atheism actually grows out of this idea of trying to affirm your faith and then finding out that it can't be. You know, which is still today, I think, the best way that atheists gather. When I talk to, I mean, it's not for me because obviously it's a different process, but yeah, I think that the inconsistencies are what, you know, pull people away from it. And to find those inconsistencies, there's no point in talking to atheists. You may as well go and talk to Christians. I mean, I certainly do. I find it's certainly in our community, lots of inconsistencies when it comes to listening to individual Christians over a period of time.
Oh, for sure.
You know, especially the ones which are more colourful. I mean, you know, G-Man or Vekel, Arcane, right? I mean, how many mad things have we heard?
Speaking of, I sent out an invite to, I have a Christian circle. I sent out an invite there. So if you're one of the three watching, check your invites. You want to come in. I'd love to have a couple Christians come in and discuss it. I mean, this would make it a little bit more interesting here.
Would you like me to do the same, Brother John?
Sure. Yeah, sure. You know, I've been up here, I've been on like another hour, so we can go another hour live if we get some people here.
Why am I presenting? Am I actually presenting?
Oh, let me stop here. Okay, stop. Yeah. No name. I think I put I sent you a link if you want to come in, Bob. Oh, you'll probably get it from my other account on the G Plus profiles, because I don't have outside chat on this account. Which is kind of fucked up, but
sluts. So I fucking go play poker, right, dude? So this is a great story. This is a great story, dude.
Okay. Yeah, tell us.
Good story. So I go down and I got $150, right? And I'm sitting at a 1-2 table, and I'm there for like 3 hours, and I make like $100, right? So I got like $250, something like that. Pocket aces, right? This is a true story, people. Fucking ridiculous. I got pocket aces, right? And then some guy raised, another guy called, and then I re-raised. One of the guys called, right? So it's nothing that helps anyone, anything like that. I bet like I re-raised it to like $65, dude, right? So like, just think, you're calling $65 here. Just think of all this in mind, like the actual amount of money here, you know? So I bet he called. Then I bet $40. He called again, dude. And then on the next card, I checked because I wanted. The next card was an ace, right? It was an ace of hearts. Mm. So I got a set right there. I got top set, dude. So I was like, I checked to try and.
I just got to ask you quickly: was there any straight or flush possibilities around on the board?
No, there was nothing out on the flop. Both cards, it was like 9-2-6, something like that. All different suits, right?
Oh.
So there was a heart. So the ace of hearts, right? So I hit my set. There's 2 hearts on the board. So I check to try to induce him to bet, right? So he does. He bets 100, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking for a while, and I'm like, all right, and I call. And then the last card is a heart. So I'm like, all right, there's a flush draw out on the board here, but I'm thinking there's no way that this guy is calling any of these things with a flush draw. I mean, there was no reason why he should have been. I go all in. I'm pretty sure I got the right hand here. I go all in, and then he calls. And he flips over Queen 5 of hearts. Queen, there was no 5. There was no heart draw until the turn. And then He's betting $100 into a heart draw. It was the most
on what with one card, right?
Yeah, like he got a flush. He got a runner flush, and I had an overpair, dude.
So he's betting 30.
The chances of that happening.
Yeah, no, I was just working out. He's betting 30% of the pot. Right? He's bluffing 30% of the pot.
Yeah. At this point, like the size of the amounts of stacks that we have doesn't really matter, you know.
And he's got like 10 outs, maybe less than that, 9 outs.
Less than that, dude.
Less than
dude, and
18%.
And he's betting into it, right? So like the entire this guy flop, dude. There was a and he had 2 unders that weren't connected that were suited. The pot was like 500 something bucks, dude. I lost all my money on that hand, and I was like, fuck you. I looked at the guy. Everyone was like, are you serious? They were all look retard, you know. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, for real? You really called that, dude? What is going on with you, bro? And he had this like blank glass eye stare going on at me the entire time, you know. Like there wasn't anything going on there.
It's poker face.
Yeah, I know.
But dude,
I get it.
But
you just want to get up.
He wasn't.
Why have you got any money at all in your life, dude?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you have any money at all?
Dude, the chances of that happening to anyone are so fucking slim, especially when you're betting like hundreds of dollars at a time, dude, right?
Yeah, you know? Well, I mean, for some people, $100 is fuck all, right? You know what I mean? And that's the problem, you know.
It didn't look like $100 was fuck all for this guy, dude.
People play, you know, sensibly, right? If they want to throw their money away, or you know, or bet money, a large amount of money on a 10% chance. Oh fuck!
I was loving it. I was like, yeah, fucking bet. You're betting me. You're betting me $100 right now. I'm like, yeah, I'll take that, dude. And then it just fucking hit, and I was like, oh.
To be honest, I probably would have shoved on a turn, big style. I mean.
Well, I checked to induce his bet, right? And he did. He hit it, and he bet $100, and I only had like another 100 left or something like that.
Well,
so I'm thinking that he
would have called in.
I don't know if he. I don't. Yeah, I don't know, dude, because everyone at the table was super tight, dude. So like, if people they were folding bets like that, you know, because they knew. So like, tight table, dude. I was playing real good, you know.
Yeah.
And then this hand that I was supposed to like capitalize just got fucking right underneath. I was like, fuck you, poker god, fuck you.
Yeah, and fuck you for being a dick and playing poker.
Oh my god, dude, I was so mad at that guy.
I know. It's not filled with the Holy Spirit, Eric. If you would have got filled with the Holy Spirit,
dude. When I saw that, oh man.
I mean, maybe
when I saw that ace hit, dude, I had the Holy Spirit when that ace hit. I was like, yes, this is it. This is the exact hand I needed, dude. Smack this guy for like $250, right? And then no, that didn't happen, dude.
Yeah.
He just pulls a double the turn and the river, dude. Heart.
Yeah.
Anything.
I've had it happen to me. I've had people that just take a dislike to me personally, just call all the way down and get fucking runner. But yeah, whatever. It's real tough when it's everything. You know, everything you've been playing for that night comes down to this one hand, and the guy.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's how you do it, dude.
Yeah, that's sick. That is totally sick.
Because I got a good read. I was there for like 3 hours, dude, and I was raking up like small pots and stuff. I was raking up pots, you know, like $20 here and there, something like that.
Yeah. He bet back the turn. Yeah. I mean, I guess he thought that you were bluffing and he was going to get you off the hand, you know. And then once he'd committed the rest of the money, I guess you didn't have enough money to. So, I mean, if you only had $100, if he bet $100 in, he was obviously looking at your stack, thinking
like the
maybe
perfect situation.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well, that's poker, though, isn't it? I mean, I have had some ridiculous runs where I've, like, you know,
He had
I've had
little equity in the hand.
You're breaking up a little bit, bro.
Yeah, it's just sick play, isn't it? And it's totally fucking new play. A donkey play, really. I mean, it's a calling.
He had equity in the hand at the turn. Like, yeah, he was a donkey, dude. And like the call at the end, you know, because he was pot committed, but like he was definitely trying to fucking bluff me, you know, and like he just got super lucky.
Yeah, super lucky. Runner for fuck's sake, when you put that much money in.
Yeah.
What a knob.
And I had top set, dude.
Well, yeah. I mean, that doesn't matter if someone's going to flush you out, you know, then it doesn't matter what card you've got. The fact is, you know, you should have folded on the flop.
It does, dude.
Sure.
I had pocket aces, dude. I had pocket aces, and then I hit my set. Like, fuck. About as good as it gets good, dude.
Yeah, pretty.
Bro, excuse one moment. Yeah, because William Freeman put out a message about half an hour ago. Okay, on the event page. William, if you're listening, man, I sent you the invite. Check your G Plus page. All right, I sent you an invite.
Yep.
I don't have outside chat on this channel unless maybe Lyrics or Simon, you see a nice outside chat. You can, you know.
I'll have a look. See what I can see.
Look. Yeah.
I think I've also sent him a link as well.
That was my fucking afternoon. Goddamn donkeys.
Totally fucking sucks, man.
It's a true story, man. I'm fucking so pissed. That would have been like almost a $600 pot, like 5 something, you know? And I would have just taken off. I've been like, that'd been great.
It's a bummer, dude.
Slut masters. I hate fucking playing poker, dude, at the casino sometimes because you have those people.
Yeah.
Like, why would you know it's bad? Like, I don't understand it. It's weird. So horrible to do that.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Granted, you got to be a fucking shitty.
He just got so lucky, dude.
Because he's got Queen 5, right, and he's calling what is a big re-raise. So now any poker player is getting straight out, right? Even if you've got 3-1 there, you don't really want to be calling with Queen 5. Okay, maybe if he was on the bus.
$65, dude, for Queen 5. It's not like a $12 bet or a fucking limp in or something like that. Someone raised and then I re-raised, you know?
Like, well, that's the point. It's a big re-raise. So I think that's the shitty play right there. Is he's thinking, right, I've got Queen 5. Well, it's suited. That means something. No, it doesn't. Right? Just because you have 2 cards suited, your odds in the pot only go up all amount. Right? Really, it's 4 or 5%, something like that. I think. So yeah.
Especially when you're up against an overpair, right? When you're against aces and you got 2 cards that are suited but just suited, it's like 1% chance, dude, of winning that hand.
Tiny. Yeah, it's tiny. So I don't think it's it's bad play clearly. But then if $65 is nothing to somebody, right? I mean, I've seen guys walk into casinos throw like a couple of grand on the table and then just bet £50 in bets every time. I mean, they just want to show off, right?
He had like about as much as I did, right? You had like 250, and if you're gonna call a raise for 65, dude, right? I mean, you gotta have a prude, you know.
Well, you got to have at least a pair, I would have thought, or connected, suited connected, right? Maybe if he had Queen Jack suited, there, I would go, yeah, all right, fair enough, you know.
I wouldn't call it anything other than kings or aces, dude, because you know that one of those against queens, kings, or aces, and the best bet is to get a suited king. But dude, like, I don't know, we shouldn't even be playing that. Shouldn't be.
Well, if $65 is fuck all, I might play it. Right? I mean, I wouldn't.
It wasn't fuck all though at this table. It wasn't. People were playing tight.
No. I mean, to him personally, if he's walking in with like $10,000, right, and he's just sitting down at a table and he's got 10 grand in his pocket and he's going to go and do some serious gambling in a little while, he's having fun. Yeah, all right.
He's going to be a twat.
Yeah, he's got to be a dick because he's sitting down at a table with people that, you know, you got to want to
fucking up the game, dude.
Yeah, totally.
Because when I was there, dude, there was another guy, and we were definitely playing with each other. You could tell. There was like me and him, and then all the rest of everyone. And I was getting out of his way, and he was kind of getting out of my way. And then people left the table because everyone was too good, right? They left. So I was sitting there, you know, and we're just. And that dude, he got a shitload of money right before I got knocked out, you know? So, like, we were both doing really good, and then he just doubled up again, and I fucking missed it. And I just looked at the guy, and I'm like, Yeah.
I mean, I play on the site now, which there are more donkeys on than I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. And, fucking nightmare. Online poker these days is donkey city. But yeah, I don't know. I tend to play tournaments for that reason, to be honest, Lyrics. I tend not to play cash because of that. At least in a tournament, I know if I get to the final table, well, probably, you know, 6 out of the other players are good players. So
I love
that's what I try and do.
I love a good poker game. Fraught with delusion and chance. Oh yes. You know, I sport fatalist perspective. You know, fuck. Such a trip to play poker with a fatalist perspective. I love it.
I think I do as well, to be honest, Tommy.
Wow.
Even when I get aces, I tend to. I mean, in that situation, as I say, when you were describing how you played it. I don't play that way because I have to play around so many donks. So I'm shutting out. If I've got aces, I played it exactly the same way you did.
Just now, that if you and I and 4 other gamblers went to a casino and stacked a table, us together, 4 or 5 of us went to a casino and sat down, and then one other person came, that we would be more likely to win than that other person. We'd probably skin the shit out of them. Does that make sense?
Well, over time, yeah. Over time, but not on any one hand. I mean,
but I would think statistically that one of us would be more likely to win every time.
Well,
let's say if there were 5 players and 4 of us were in association.
Over time,
one of us 4 would be more likely.
But actually, I think poker is quite a hard game to play as a team at one table. When I play with friends and we go to casinos, we generally sit at different tables, so we don't clash.
I mean, it's nearly impossible, dude. I've sat down with 3 guys at a table, me and 3 other guys, right? Some of them just got rolled over fast. Where you're playing, what the stakes are, who's at the table, how you feel.
Well, how many people are at the table? If there's 1 adversary and
10.
3 associates, then if we associates pool we draw out of the same treasury. It's irrelevant if one of us loses to each other. I don't know if you follow, but anyway.
I do.
I understand, but me and my friends, we don't play like that, dude.
Like what?
If someone wins a hand, right? I mean, if you win a hand, you win a hand. I've lost like hundreds of dollars to my brother before at at the casino. You
Oh,
know,
you don't play dishonestly?
we don't like put.
Dishonestly, you mean? You don't
think-
play to win?
Well, even trying to play dishonestly, all right, you end up with hands against hands, right? So, for instance, right, you're playing against one person. You got aces, right? So you know you've got to tell your mate. So you raise. Nothing unusual there. The guy you're playing against, all right, he either folds all the time because he's got your mate sitting behind him and he's noticed that the two of you are not playing against each other, right? So it's really difficult to conspire to play against one person alone. You can do it, and over time it works over a whole number of hands, right? But the problem being is, you know, you have to fold some pretty decent hands if you're doing that, because if your mate raises and you're in between the guy, right, and you have a fairly decent hand, you have to fold, right? So if you've got like queens or something, and you know your mate's got aces, you've got queens, well, you've got to fold your queens because your mate's raising.
Okay, how about if we're drawing straws? Let's say 5 of us are drawing straws, and whoever gets the longest straw wins. And let's say the ante is $1. It's just what it is. So we all pitch in $5 or $1 a piece. You know, 4 of us and 1 adversary, and one of us is going to get the winning straw. You know, more likely one of us every time.
Right. Yeah.
You know, assuming that chance exists, of course, which is I'm giving you all of your assumptions, and
Chance,
as I say, over time that would work out. But on any one hand, it's likely as anybody else to win. And secondly, again, poker, you know, the skill part of poker is the issue. If it was just a luck game, that would be true. But if the guy's a very skillful player, well, actually, he's going to get some number of your opponent, some number of your team. He's going to get some of their chips. In which case, he has a larger starting stack against any single individual in the team. So that's another interesting dynamic that can occur. To play with people, and I've never really found
there's merit to what you're saying, Saints. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Some of
I've always found
and delusional brethren who hold belief in God, they don't think God will play an honest game of poker. I mean, this is bloody fucking hell and delusional as hell. They really, I mean, I can understand you guys not believing God could play a decent hand, of course. It's not delusional. But them, they hold belief that God exists, and they actually believe that God couldn't play an honest game of poker, which is vexing to me. Sorry, I'm in a poetic mood.
We're not talking about going to your friend's house, dude, right? When I was at the table, everyone knew each other. They knew the dealers, right? That's how it is. I know people at Foxwoods. If I go to Foxwoods now and I see them there, I can just walk up and say hi to them. I don't really know who they are, but I met them there. That's how it is with these places. There's people that are friends, right? And they play poker with each other. And when you see someone sit down, right, that may look like a fish or a whale or whatever you want to call it, dude, you know, it's an unspoken thing, right, that you kind of just play your hands, you know, most of the time. And then you play the player. Right? That's kind of how it works out. When you find someone that's good, is just as good as you are, you end up just playing your hands. You don't even bother. And if you don't got anything, dude, you know?
Yeah.
But everyone knows each other, dude. It's like it's a huge community up here. See, almost the same people.
Well, guile, or a straight face can be a very difficult thing to put forth. Some peeps are easy to read, maybe. I don't know. Truly.
Yeah. Well,
Especially
the thing. Ed. That is my thing. Is being easy to read. I don't bother hiding signals. I just tell them what I've got, and that way they keep following.
So I raised. Check this out. I raised, right, and then this guy re-raised me, and he was shaking so fucking bad, dude. And I looked at him, and I just folded, you know. And I'm like, he's like, why'd you fold? And I'm like, you're shaking like a goddamn leaf, man. And everyone started laughing, you know. And they could all see it. He's just sitting there with his hands, blah, blah, blah. He left like 10 minutes later, dude.
It was a compassion
He already knew.
fold. It wasn't a
bluff.
fold or a fear fold. It was a compassion.
But I told him that, right? I told him that while we were there. I'm like, dude, you just showed me what was going on right here. And I told him that to help him, right?
Yeah.
Not to be a dick or take his money. I'm not trying to. It is to take your money, dude. But most of the people there are there because they enjoy the game and they want to get better.
Yeah. You don't want to take his money, but if he loses his money and he can afford it, that's fine. Yeah.
He took my money, right? He took my money, and I told him, like, dude, what are you doing, man? You're shaking like a leaf over there. You got to calm down, you know.
Yeah, that's usually that can be a tell for a weak hand, actually.
You know, he had aces. He pulled them over. He had pocket aces.
Oh, really?
I had pocket eights. I raised like $15. He raised me 3 times at 45.
Oh, okay,
and I'm like, I'm not calling 45 with that. And he's shaking the whole time as he's doing it, you know. So I was like, nah, I'm not.
Sorry. What hand did you have? I missed that.
I raised with pocket eights. Yeah, eights.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay. No, that's a good play. Yeah.
I don't like to take people's money unless they want to give it. Then it can be distasteful.
The fucking last guy wanted to. He was giving me money, and then Poker Jesus just decided to get nailed on the fucking cross and just fucked me over.
He fucked you over big time.
Well, thank you for that transition. Yeah, because we kind of went from the crucifixion to poker.
Yeah, that's a good point. Back to Jesus.
I met a man who played a lot of poker with his friends, but he stopped because he won so much. It was like weird. He just would most often win big, week after week after week, and it got depressing to him.
You know, I went through a period with my friends where I won just about every game for, I don't know, 4 months. We used to play 3 games a session, and I just won every single game.
Dude,
let's not play poker next month.
Yeah.
And I went,
oh, win-win games are just so yum, you know, in certain circumstances where everybody wins somehow, one way or another.
I was having fun, you know. Like we were all laughing. It was fun, even though, like, you know, you lose money, you do this and stuff. Like, people were talking about that up there. They were like, you know, you bring $200, you play some poker for 5 hours. Up here in Denver, like, going out to the movies and dinner is almost $200. You know, so it's kind of like, it's like that.
That's a night out, yeah.
And that's worth a lot, man. That's worth it. Having a great time, exciting time in cool conditions, you know. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, personally, again, you know, I'm not. I can't play cash for the same reason you're talking about. I find that my cash game is just appalling. It's like I sit down at the table and I know I'm the fish.
Ooh.
I mean,
ooh.
Well, I mean, I'm a good tournament player. You know, I'll win tournaments left, right, and center. But
right, somehow that's
3 hours, make next to nothing, and in one hand, I lose everything. You know.
No, I'm real good at live poker, like in front of me. You know, where I can see you and stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
I know every dude. This is the fucking first time I've lost in like a long time, dude. Like a long time. Probably 10 years where I lost all my money, you know. It was only $150, but I was like, what the fuck?
Oh, I wanted to share something with you. That spinning a coin is is more predictable than flipping a coin. That when you spin, let's say, a quarter, that it oftentimes will go to one side or the other predictably. And if you get a reading on which side, you know, it tends to go with that side. Go with that side. Yeah, spinning a quarter is an interesting way to gamble. Different than flipping a coin. Anyway, thank you for letting me throw that out there for your consideration. I won $16 like that one time with that little information.
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
Oh,
I'm
shit.
sorry to mention it, dude.
Take that measly fucking bullshit $16 and shove it up your ass, dude.
You said that already. Goddamn, calm down, sir. Please have a little honor.
That's like what you bet. That's like what you bet, right? When I'm playing, that's like the first bet that you put out when I'm playing poker, dude. $15. That's normal.
I
That's a
fucking
fortune.
tipped the stripper. I've tipped the stripper more than that for just getting me a drink. I'm joking, but yeah, unlucky.
I'd give her
I
a
think
5, dude.
She's there cheap around your area. Yeah.
I'll give her a 5 if she's nice, you know.
I like how Lyrics is looking in the house.
Yeah. Hey, fuck it. It's gambling.
Strippers are interesting people. They love to strip. They love to strip, but if you ask them to strip, it's a whole different story.
You gotta demand it.
Pay for it. It has to be profitable.
Money.
Strippers
Strippers are gross, dude. Strippers are gross. Never met
Well,
a wholesome stripper.
Yeah, well,
Like,
obscenities in the eye of the
hold
beholder,
on.
of course.
You guys hear me? You hear me, Tommy?
Yes.
Yeah. Quiet.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to see because you know the hangout was supposed to, about crucifixion, and we kind of went over a lot of things the first hour, and talking poker and stuff. So
Man, why are you talking about Jesus some more, dude?
well, it's Good Friday.
Hey,
This is
so
the
what?
day that Jesus
no idea.
got crucified. So I had a simple question for Tommy. Since he holds faith in Jesus, doesn't call himself a
can't
Christian.
help it.
Happy
Can't help
Black
it.
Friday.
Blame God. I can't help it.
I was wondering if you don't. So tell me, like, why do you believe that God chose crucifying his son as the means for forgiveness of sin? I mean, why do you believe this and why do you believe this to be true?
Well, it seems a bit unnecessary or bizarre, but I believe it in a rational way. It seems remotely reasonable, kind of unnecessary, being that God is allegedly omnipotent and all he surely could have thought of a different plan. Why would he choose crucifixion and resurrection as a means to spread good? I don't know. It does seem kind of stupid, but I do believe it over the course of time.
If that's the case, why believe it? If that's the case, why believe it?
Well,
I mean, if you obviously see the unreasonable in it, right? And that it could have been some better.
Yeah, I conceded that. Yes, it does. When I think about it, it does sometimes seem unreasonable. But realize this, John, that I only believe it on occasion, usually during waking moments. I don't think about the resurrection. I don't think about getting nailed to a cross or forgive them, they know not what they do. I don't think about these things very often. And I only hold belief in them when I think about them. The other times I'm busy trying to live a life of happiness and productivity. I think about these beliefs, but on occasion, for whatever that's worth. But why do I believe it? I believe it in a dogmatic kind of way. It's kind of embarrassing, but I do. And I think I do because of the weight of other things that are written. Other things that are written in that book of books known as the Holy Bibles has such powerful and profound weight that it lends credibility to some of the weird stuff like floating axe heads or cutting your son's throat or a God that is omnipotent.
So, are you saying that a big part of why you believe is because if you the possible consequences if you don't?
Fear. I'm not going to deny that I have fear that I better believe what is true and cogent and right, of course. But what I'm saying is I believe that dogmatically when I think about it because of the weight of things that are said about love, things that are said about, profound things that are written right beside it. And so it gives credibility to the weird stuff like floating axe heads or cutting your son's throat. That's what I'm saying. Do you hear me, Simon? Does that does that cogent?
I hear what you're saying. It's not cogent in the respect of
You're not certifying it. Yes.
Well, no, it's not. It's not cogent. Yeah, it's not cogent in the respect of it would make sense to me to be fearful of something like that.
Of course.
Wouldn't be.
But the credibility thing, the carryover of credibility. Let's say I read something that just seemed so good and deep, and let's say it was about love, and let's say on the next verse or chapter or text over, it says something about the crucifixion of Christ Jesus. You do hear me that kind of carries over. It lends some credibility to the plausibility of it somehow, and it's an emotional kind of wash over if you get what I'm saying. And
I agree. I agree with you that it makes intuitional sense to carry it over. But I would point out that it's in many books, and especially there are the same kind of deep truths in the Bible as in Shakespeare. And I've certainly been reading Shakespeare and had what I consider awe-inspiring moments of human nature, which has explained something to me about myself. And I think that's what most Christians are referring to when they say they feel the Holy Spirit.
Fear of God is kind of yucky and juvenile. Perfect love casts out all fear, it is written.
Well,
but anyway,
that's the problem. Right there is the problem, St. Tommy, right? Because it's written that, but then all the testations and the testimonies of Christians say something different.
But I do esteem Wikipedia. I don't worship it. Oh no, I don't worship that book or that virtual book,
right?
Or that compilation of whatever all Wikipedia it is. But I am forced to concede that, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, but this breaks the carryover argument down. There are.
I see that there is other truth. There is other quality truth everywhere, and so just because there's a quality truth of some subjective nature in some book that's loaded up in some copy of something called Holy Bible. It doesn't mean that other truths right next door are worth considering as plausible. I hear you. I hear you. It is an emotional thing. It's not a rational thing in that sense.
Sure. I hear you saying that as well. And
woo, baby. Watch out for that woo.
I've tried to say that I agree. It's intuitionally it would make sense because it correlates with the emotions. As I pointed out, I've had those exact emotions in many different arenas. So to a like special import to this one particular book, I think is the issue I have, and is probably what makes me an anti-theist in the long run.
Understood. Sounds like tidy mental hygiene in some way, and I mean that.
Yeah, I agree. It's an attempt at it, and whether it's true works or not.
Exactly, and it is a.
And again, and again, when I've actually
woo is treacherous. Go ahead, excuse me.
Joe, but when I've come to the subject, I mean, all of the things which are, shall we say, or good. Now we're on Good Friday. All of those things that are good, you know, are previously written elsewhere in literature. I mean, previously written, not just written after the event, but beforehand.
Or
Right?
so you believe.
Well, I'm confident. I'm confident.
That not be contested, but you're quoting from authority. You've read credible historic sources that say that these things were written before the Bible or the Torah or whatever was penned. You're taking it on authority that is the case.
In some sense, yeah, of course, I am. You know, but then we have evidence.
That's Bart Thurman or somebody. Are we talking Bart here? Bart said it.
No, we're talking things like the Stone of Hammurabi, or the Codex of Hammurabi, which is dated to roughly 1750 BC, which easily predates anything in the Torah.
Well, I think it's reasonable to surmise that my copy of that book has not been altered by NASA, but that's me. You know how good they are with the lens.
Does the Hammurabi talk about child sacrifices? Is
Okay, so as I understand it, there are some considerable number of laws on there. Most of them are to do with farms, marriages, you know, those kind of things. But no, it's mainly the Ten Commandments that you find in Hammurabi.
Right.
As far as I'm aware, the Babylonians and the Akkadians didn't do child sacrifice, but you know, that's not to say it's not a carryover from region. You know, I'm pretty sure that children's bones, like in the New World, have been found in post holes. So I think it's something which was fairly common. But again, when you say, oh, because they're there because they've been sacrificed, I'm not sure that's the case. I mean, maybe in some cases weren't going to live, or, you know, it's often been said about the Spartans, and this is much later in history, that they left their children out on a hillside overnight to see if they would live.
I would steal them, maybe. Somebody leave an infant just laying around, I'm liable to snag that infant. You know?
Yeah, and you'd have to deal with a lot of angry men, though.
Yeah, I know. People don't like you. When people are disposing of their infants, they don't like to be interfered with, I bet. Yeah,
indeed.
Really.
Yeah.
Hey, did you guys behold our good neighbor Fackel and our good neighbor Skylar debate earlier?
Yes, I did watch it. I did watch most of it.
Oh, it was so precious. Did you see Fackel defending the character of Almighty God and moralism?
It was lovely. Again, considering he's on what I would call a sticky wicket to start with.
Yeah.
He carried himself pretty well, actually.
Cool. Glad to hear that. That's a damn tall order, defending the good character of God. Glad that ain't my burden. God. Oh, no, hell no. I am called to sit on the prosecuting council of God to help those poor rascals who, you know, understandably suffer standing in judgment of God. Yes, I sit on the prosecution side. Personally, thank God.
It beggars belief as to why an omniscient God would need a prosecution.
Yeah, I'll be thinking
Hey,
about that.
but there you go. One of the questions which aren't going to get answered anytime soon.
Well, I would expect that a good God would expect nothing less than to be judged harshly by good men.
If I can hope
You know,
so.
just look at what he does. Look how he runs this hellhole wonderful
I
earth.
know, man. I know,
Good
man. You just.
God.
I actually was doing some archaeology. And I found Jesus's diary, and it actually says, I'll just open it and read today's. Wow,
music.
fucked up day, got crucified. Hey.
Wow.
I made that last bit up there, if anybody's
I
wondering.
love neo poetry, man. It's like a disease. I just love
He was able to write. I think his hands would have been kind of sore, no?
No problem.
Was Jesus a righty or a lefty?
I think he was a lefty. I do.
I think he was ambidextrous.
Jesus, he's ambidextrous.
He was acquainted with all challenges, with all opportunities. Yes.
Do you think he was ginger?
Ginger Jesus.
Parts of it might have been, you know. Parts of it, I don't know if it was his. Well, never mind. But or his. Well, never mind. But I guess it wouldn't be surprising if he were part ginger.
Would explain the persecution complex.
There it is. And why he made wine at the wedding, his first miracle, allegedly. You know, I heard that's why God invented alcohol, was so the gingers wouldn't rule the earth. But I don't know.
Yeah, I read one. I mean, I like the Greek story. I think that one's really interesting about how that was found, how wine, how grapes were stolen or something. Maybe that's fire I'm thinking of. I can never remember. I was pretty pissed. And that's another thing as well, you know.
I've heard about the Greeks. A wondrous people. Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, the Greek girls, man. The Catholic girls ain't got nothing on the Greek girls. I know. You've heard about the talents of the Catholic neighbor girls?
Of course.
Catholic girls ain't got nothing on our Greek sisters. Nothing. I guess. I heard about the Greek army too. Have you heard about how they separate the men from the boys in the Greek army?
I haven't.
They introduce them to the Greek girls, and they just pop right apart.
Yeah.
Ain't it wonderful how reality is more beautiful than fiction? But,
well, when it comes down to it, the basics are the basics, and they ain't going to change. Doesn't matter how much you find them. It doesn't matter how much you find them repulsive in other people. They're still never going to change.
Truly.
All right, before I close this sucker down, any last thoughts on the crucifixion?
Thank God our sin is forgiven, and we got to think about it.
Okay.
Be religious and figure it all the fuck out.
So, I might see you guys. Well, I'm staying here off air, but yeah, perhaps Sunday we'll do a hangout on the resurrection. So
yeah, maybe in 3 days' time.
On Jesus' erection?
Oh,
no, I think making.
Sorry, I'm a comedian, John. I'm sorry, sir. I apologize.
Making up a crime where he.
Holy penis of God! Good God! Sorry, John.
Peace out, all. Peace.